Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusallihi ala rasulihil kareem. Now I think the taste is a bit different. I am talking about diabetes mellitus, and just a brief presentation on the management of diabetes mellitus after the cardiovascular outcome trials. So these are my disclaimer. My agenda is this: prevalence of diabetes, cardiovascular outcome trials, and ADA guidelines after the cardiovascular outcome trials. So it's a huge burden. At present, 537 million people are suffering from diabetes mellitus all over the world. I think it is just, this is underreporting. I think it is more than that. And every 4% out of 5 are in the low socioeconomic group. And 6.7 million deaths due to diabetes mellitus. Every 5 seconds, 1% is dying of diabetes mellitus related complication. And at the same time, 2 new persons are developing diabetes mellitus. So it's an alarming figure. And as I mentioned you, this is the most important thing, that in our socioeconomic status, the people who are deprived of everything, the prevalence of diabetes is maximum in those situations, in those countries. Pakistan is among those. And situation of Pakistan is at present third in the world having the burden of patients with diabetes mellitus. So I think everyone should be well versed with the management of diabetes mellitus, because this is not only for the patient benefit, but it also for the doctor's benefit. It's the bread and butter of the doctors for next 20 years. So you must have heard all about the risk factor for diabetes, ischemic heart disease, and diabetes mellitus is one of the important risk factor. And I will not go into the details of this discussions. And these are the 8 pathophysiological mechanisms which give rise to diabetes mellitus, and almost every pathophysiological mechanism has a drug for use to address that pathophysiological mechanism. So I'll go into detail. There is impaired insulin secretion, then there is increased glucagon secretion, increased hepatic glucose output, and then there is impaired appetite regulation, decreased glucose uptake from the muscles, and increased glucose reabsorption from the kidney. So all these things contribute to the management of diabetes mellitus. And what happens, initially insulin resistance remains the same, but the insulin deficiency, initially there is hyperinsulinemia, and after that there start insulin deficiency, and then there is also a decrease in incretin effect, and before the development of diabetes mellitus, the macrovascular and microvascular complications start developing. So it is way before the development of diabetes mellitus that patient develop micro and macrovascular complication. It is not only the hyperglycemia, it is the hypoglycemia which matters so much. So I think this is very important to manage the patient and to avoid the hypoglycemia. You see that if the patient have hypoglycemia, the endothelial dysfunction and decreased vasodilation effect persists for 48 hours, and and also some effect persists for up to 7 days. That leads to increased neutrophil activation factor, increased factor 8 level, and increased platelet activations. So I think this is very, very important message, that you should not only manage the diabetes mellitus, but you should be also avoiding the hypoglycemia in those patients. And that is why now the approach is it is not glucocentric approach, it is basically cardiocentric and renocentric approach that is more favorable. So to conclude, cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death among people with diabetes. While rate of cardiovascular disease in the diabetic population are decreasing, they remain very much higher than in the non-diabetic patient. And management of cardiovascular risk remains a key concern in patients with type 2 diabetes, with and without diabetes mellitus. So do you know this person? He is Steve Nissen, and he presented a meta-analysis on rosiglitazone, from where all these controversies started. Rosiglitazone was doing $4 billion business in America. And after this meta-analysis, we showed that there is increased risk of myocardial infarction with an increase in risk of death from a cardiovascular causes that had borderline significance. New England Journal of Medicine published this. And after that, Avendia has a nosedive. And then there was litigation and people went to the courts, and there was a lot of litigation, and the company has to pay a lot of compensation for that. After that, FDA made it compulsory that any new anti-diabetic drug should have a cardiovascular outcome trials. Before that, that will not be registered if there is no cardiovascular outcome trial. So there are two types of trial. One is efficacy trial. In this, they compare one drug with the other drug, but there was another arm in which they also compared it with placebo to see that this is not inferior to the placebo in cardiovascular event. And then there was another trial, which was the safety trial, in which there was only it was only assessed that it was compared with placebo, and it should show non-inferiority to the placebo. It may not show superiority to the placebo, but it should not show the inferiority to the placebo. And there are few drugs which have superiority and non-inferiority even after post-marketing, and they were approvable and no need for post-marketing study. But there were few drugs which have non-inferiority only, and they need to have post-marketing study. And then there was some drugs which they were proved to be inferior or underpowered, and they were not appropriate for approval. So this was not a big data of the patient was required. Only 500 patients with stage 3-4 kidney disease, 600 patients with established cardiovascular disease, and 500 patients with more than 65 years of age. ये उनका criteria था कि FDA ने कहा कि इतने patient you recruit them, and then you do the study and then show the result that this drug is non-inferior to placebo. And then these were the huge lot of studies in which DPP-4 inhibitors were also studied, and then SGLT2 inhibitor and GLP-1 receptor agonists were studied. What about DPP-4 inhibitor? They show non-inferiority to the placebo. They did not show any superiority, but they show the non-inferiority to the placebo. So they are neutral. So you can give those to every patient who is diabetic but who don't have the cardiovascular disease or who don't have cardiovascular disease risk. Then this is a study of glimepiride comparing with linagliptin, and that showed that glimepiride, beta blocker, and linagliptin has the same efficacy. Then this drug has revolutionized the thing. EMPA-REG trial. This has revolutionized the thing. It has shown 3-point MACE reduction from 35 to 38%. So this, you see, the difference was right from the very beginning. The line got separated, and this had actually revolutionized the thing and in management of type 2 diabetes mellitus. And then there were some other trials, DECLARE-TIMI trial and also CANVAS trial, which show some impact, but not that much impact as the EMPA-REG trial showed. And these were the SGLT2 inhibitor trials, which show that these have shown superiority over the placebo. And then there was a DAPA heart failure trial, which also showed that it is a very good drug for heart failure patients, as Dr. Shehbaz also mentioned this. And then GLP-1 receptor agonist trial were also in the market, and in this, not all drugs showed the superiority, but LEADER trial, in which liraglutide was used, and SUSTAIN 6 trial, in which semaglutide was used, they showed definitely superiority, but not to that extent which was in the EMPA-REG group. And again, these are the trials. Pioneer trial is on oral semaglutide, which did not show any statistical significance, although numerical significance was there, but statistical significance was not there. So these are the results of these trials. Only one drug which did not show any trial benefit was the lexasenoside, which did not show any benefit. And this is the meta-analysis of GLP-1 receptor agonists. Again, all things are going on the left side, and they are showing the benefit except the lexasenoside. So to summary, cardiovascular outcome trial in diabetes are designed for safety rather than efficacy, with a high risk proportion to decrease the number of events. Favorable cardiovascular outcomes were reported with GLP-1 receptor agonist, liraglutide, semaglutide, albiglutide, and dulaglutide. And exenatide XR and oral semaglutide show cardiovascular safety with a lower number of cardiovascular events but did not reach the statistical significance. So main drugs which show in the GLP receptor group was liraglutide and semaglutide. And alexacenatide has not demonstrated superiority to reduction in cardiovascular risk. Cardiovascular safety was demonstrated with DPP-4 inhibitors, but they were neutral. And cardiovascular superiority was observed with empagliflozin and canagliflozin. Treatment with dapagliflozin did not result in a higher or lower rate of MACE or versus placebo, but reduction in the co-primary outcome of cardiovascular death or hospitalization for heart failure was observed with declared TIMI trial and DAPA heart failure trials. So what was the impact of this trial? These trial almost changed the management of diabetes mellitus. So if there is a patient on the word go with having atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, or he is having indicator of high risk patient, he is high risk, he is having hyperlipidemia, he is obese, he is smoking, dyslipidemia and hypertension. If that is present, at least 2 risk factors with more than 55-year age, or he is also having already established atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. So that patient should either be on GLP-1 receptor agonist, or that patient should be on SGLT2 inhibitors. And if the hemoglobin A1C doesn't come on target, you can add, if you are on, one patient is on GLP-1, patient can be added SGLT2 inhibitor and the vice versa. But if the patient is having heart failure, as Dr. Shahbaz mentioned clearly, that if the patient is having heart failure, current or prior symptom of heart failure, either reduced ejection fraction or preserved ejection fraction, SGLT2 is the drug of choice. And if patient has chronic kidney disease, and this means that the ejection fraction is less than 60, and if so patient after maximum dose of ACE inhibitor or ARBs, patient should be preferably started on SGLT2 inhibitor, but patient can also be, after that patient can also be given GLP-1 receptor agonist. If hemoglobin A1C is above target, then you can combine both, and you can also add insulin to those patients. These are the patients in which there is no cardiovascular, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease or risks. In those patients, if you want to reduce weight, you can use the drug. The latest drug is GLP-1 agonist and GLP-1 and GLP-2 agonists, which are available with the name of wait, sorry, no, Mr. Mujim, it's not available in Pakistan. Lexacinatide, it's another drug which is GLP-1 and GLP-2 agonist, which is not marketed in Pakistan, but it has a very good potential of reducing the weight. So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, diabetes mellitus is associated with significant cardiovascular risk. Cardiovascular outcome trials were made compulsory for rosiglitazone after rosiglitazone meta-analysis. Cardiovascular outcome trials were neutral with DPP-4 inhibitor. Most of the GLP-1 receptor agonists showed superiority of drug over placebo in 3-point MACE. The trial with SGLT2 inhibitor also showed superiority over placebo in 3-point MACE with more impact on heart failure. These trials have changed the guideline for management of diabetes mellitus. Benefit of these drugs should be offered to the specific group of the patient, keeping in mind the side effect profile and pricing. GLP-1 agonist is quite costly, And in Pakistan, I think it's not being very frequently used by the cardiologists, but I have a big group of patients. I use these drugs, but this has some side effects. GI side effect is present in these patients. But I think the combination of basal insulin and GLP-1 agonist, the combination of liraglutide plus IDEC Lira. IDEC Lira is available in the market, which has made my life easy. And but you must keep in mind the side effect profile. It can cause vomiting. It can cause GI upsets. And the other side effect of SGLT2 inhibitor, that can cause urinary tract infection, fungal infections, and non-ketotic euglycemic ketoacidosis can also be there in these patients. So keeping in mind the side effect, I think these drugs are very promising in those patients who have having atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, or who are having the risk factor for atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, or they have chronic kidney disease, or they have the heart failure. Thank you very much for the patient listening.